Well, today it's my great honor to introduce a truly remarkable leader in global tourism and development, as well as one of the greatest speakers on the circuit as well, Anita Mendiratta. Anita, thanks for joining me today.
Richard, thank you very much for the time.
Now, just as an introduction, now I know well when world leaders and organizations are in crisis situation or need to unlock new opportunities, they turn to you for your insights and guidance. You have over 3 decades of experience over more than 100 countries. Anita is a trusted executive advisor, author, diplomat, and on-air personality. She leads Anita Mendiratta and Associates, a global consultancy shaping tourism and development strategies. Now, her latest book, The Call to Leadership, Unlocking the Leader Within in Times of Crisis, has received worldwide acclaim for its in-depth exploration of leadership during the pandemic. And a third of its proceeds are dedicated to restoring early childhood education in tourism-dependent communities through Anita's foundation. Anita, again, thanks for joining me today. First question, how and why did you come up with the idea for this foundation? Tell me about the foundation and what it's all about.
Yes, you. Thank you. And thank you for the lovely introduction. The foundation is actually not to my credit. My partner, my heart partner, Al Mershon, gifted the idea to me on my big birthday when I turned 50 several years ago. And it was the idea and the logo that he presented to me. And it was a brilliant concept because he knows me. He knows how I think, he knows how I work, but importantly, he knows my heart. And he knows as well, I grew up in a Rotary family. So since I was a teeny tiny child, I grew up within the community of Rotary International, which ultimately is, as you know, it's a community of professionals around the world who utilize their experience, their expertise, and their networks towards community service. It's a brilliant organization. So that was embedded in my wiring since I was young. My father is a lifelong Rotarian. He's still actively involved, former past president, Paul Harris Fellow. And it's again always been within me that you see the world differently. For all the blessing that we have, we see opportunities in which we just can't not help because we have the ability, and to waste that ability is just wrong. So, with that in mind, the foundation was born. And it's interesting because any foundation is challenged in terms of its trustworthiness. Many people create foundations, they create not-for-profits, and many of those are used for reasons that are quite honestly criminal. So if you want to create a foundation that people trust to donate to, you need to make sure you get Charity Commission approval. And the UK Charity Commission here in London were excellent because they really grilled you on exactly what are you doing, exactly what is the benefit going to be, who are the beneficiaries, and what is your governance. And my love, as is yours, is tourism. We see the blessing that it brings to our world and to the world of people that are the hosts, the visited, not just the visitors. And I saw through my work, especially with the UNWTO, now UN Tourism, that when a crisis hits, that tourism economy is broken twice. First, because of a crisis, whether it's a natural disaster, a political issue, a social issue, a terror attack, whatever it might be. But then the stigma that comes with it. And people think, well, we can't go back because it's just had a crisis. They can't go back because the infrastructure is broken, or they can't go back because it feels wrong to interrupt when a place is recovering. I saw the damage there and I thought, I want to use the foundation to support tourism economies, but then help those communities get their children at risk back on the path to education. Because education is the key that unlocks a child's life, a family's life, a community, by bringing hope and dignity and all of that. So that's a very long way to answer your short question of what exactly the foundation is and why it is.
When you said, and we know that you've been working with UN Tourism, formerly UNWTO, for many years. Were there any specific cases that you could cite to me of something like this where it was really that it marked you in some way, and that this is how and why you did this?
Oh, you are lovingly nasty because you know you're going to make me cry, which I will now. Tacloban. It was the I'll try to tell the story. It was the super typhoon in Tacloban in the Philippines many years ago, and I was asked by the former Secretary General, Dr. Rifai, who you know well, to join he and Su Jing, who was the Asia representative, the executive director for UNWTO at the time, and the Department of Tourism of the Philippines to go and visit Tacloban. And we went to Bohol first, which had been hit by an earthquake. And then literally months later, Tacloban was hit by a super typhoon. We were in Tacloban 6 months after the super typhoon, and it was devastated. Palm trees looked like toothpicks. Few were standing, many had fallen. The airport was still damaged. We came in on a UNHCR aircraft under a private charter. We went there and we visited. And I'll never forget, Richard, we were in 3 different protocol cars. Dr. Rifai was in the first, Su Jing was in the second, I was in the third. And I couldn't quite understand, why was I there? I couldn't quite understand it. And the gentleman from the Department of Tourism, he was sitting in the front of the car and he was starting to talk very professionally. And I just said to him, where were you? Where were you when it happened? And he walked me through from the darkness of night to hearing what sounded like a train coming because of all of the sound of the water and the churning, to waking up in the morning and spending 2 hours to walk through debris, human debris, cars, trees, to reach his family. And he walked me through it. And through the whole story, I had my phone on my hand and out the window, and I just kept clicking. I didn't know what I was clicking at. And I was going through this all, and I cried, and I'm an innate crier. And I just listened, and he walked through, and you could hear a courage in his voice, even though he'd gone through trauma. So we went through the day, we went to visit different spots, and it was intense. I mean, it was just intense. And I was so grateful to be there to absorb not only the reality of what had happened, but the heroic. I mean, it was just remarkable. And I'll never forget, we were sitting on the aircraft at the end, and there was just this silence. And Dr. Rifai's looking out the window, and it's just silence as we're flying out. And I turned to him and I said, sir, why are we here? Wow. We said, why are we here? They don't need tourism. They need hospitals. They need electricity. They need plumbing. They need schools. Why are we here? And I'll never forget. And he said, we're here because they must never feel that they're alone. And I'll never forget that. I'll never, ever forget that. And that was years ago and tears ago. And that has been at my heart with everything I have done. And that's where, especially during COVID, my business pivoted to simply being a place where leaders around the world in tourism could come and talk and explain their challenges and talk through what they were dealing with, because they didn't know what was happening. They were trying to lead their countries, their businesses through recovery, wave after wave. And they were falling ill and their family members were passing. And I've said to my team, we must never let anyone feel alone. And that spirit has been with me forever. So it's always been, whether someone is living in the best of conditions or the worst, they must never feel when they're in trouble that they're alone. So that, yes, there was a very important moment. And I am profoundly grateful for it, because that flame has never, ever, ever done anything but grow stronger.
The children are the ones who really affect us the most in these situations, aren't they? I mean, you see the adults, they can cope with it. You look at the little faces of the kids and you go, how can we help these little ones? I mean, and I think that's why it's so incredible what you're doing with the foundation, because these are the future. These kids are going to be the grown-ups of tomorrow, and they need to be helped, and of course their parents need help as well. So how does that affect you? Obviously, like you said, it makes you cry. It affects you in different ways. But how does it make you feel to know you're doing something for these kids?
Grateful, because when you see a child in that situation, you look to their left or their right and you see their parent or they're another family member standing beside them with a look on their face of, I don't know what to do. And how do you not help? And I think so. I feel profoundly grateful to be able to do what I'm doing. Yes, my day job is my business, and I've been blessed through, and thank you for calling out the book, because I've been able to identify through crisis other heroes we have in our community who never wanted attention, who have now become part of the foundation. And it's a lovely little story I'll share with you. But it's we all know in our hearts, you doing this interview, you recognizing the foundation, you having known me for years, you felt compelled to do something. That's magic. And that's one of the core principles of the foundation that I said to my team when we mobilized. Firstly, this is not a hobby. We are doing this, and we're doing this seriously. To start a foundation is to start effectively another business unit, because it's a whole operation. You don't do this for the sake of ego. And when your name is on it, there's a profound responsibility. Secondly, there are no crying babies. We will not market and drive for support by making people feel bad. We want to make them feel really good about being a part of what we're doing. And that's hopefully infectious, and hopefully addictive. But I feel incredibly grateful to do what I'm doing, because I can't not. And you stepping up, Gerard stepping up and supporting through SAFE, you just melted my heart with that. And that's glorious. And so you can't not be grateful.
Now, we were talking about specifically Saudi Arabia now, and the Saudi people, of course, have this ingrained will to help other people. And this is so important as well. Of course, you were talking about Fahad as one of the key people in this respect. But this is something that perhaps people around the world don't know that so much, but we do, because you've been there and I've been there. I've seen what they like. That's something that's really important as well to underline.
Indeed. And importantly, it's one of the pillars of Islam. And so it is literally embedded in the psyche, the spirituality, the ethos, the DNA of the people. And even those who are not of Islam, it's impossible for them to not get involved in it. So someone, for instance, like Jerry Inzarello, who you beautifully interviewed recently, his relationship with South Africa, his relationship with President Mandela. He is a boy from New York, remembers where he started. He's never forgotten that journey. That's very special. And so I think what's really important as well, aside from me turning off my WhatsApp, I think what's also really important is recognizing that we in our industry, tourism is a beautifully packaged profession. We all look bright and shiny. We travel around the world. We're involved in incredibly projects, incredible places. But ultimately, we're incredible human beings that want to be able to transform our worlds through a tourism initiative, to a tourism industry that is a force for good. And it's a force for good, but it must be for all and for generations to come. Fahad Hamiduddin, the lovely CEO of Saudi Tourism, who's become a dear colleague and friend, who is also profiled in my book for his leadership during COVID, is exactly that sort of person. He has always made sure that everything the kingdom is doing for tourism is for the benefit of the Saudis, not just the people visiting Saudi Arabia. And he wants to see his people, the women, the children, the youth, the entire industry, the entire Saudi population blossom in possibility and respect and joy through tourism. It's in his heart. And so he will do it at the smallest and the largest scale possible, as will Jerry, as will every other leader I've been very blessed to work with in the kingdom.
Well, I hope there are a number of people in Saudi Arabia who are going to come and help your foundation as well, because this is what we're talking about today. Can you give an example? Firstly, also, what's the timeline of the foundation? When was it set up, and are there case examples that you can already give of things that have worked already?
Now you're going to age me, but this is an interview of honesty, so I will admit it was initially started. The concept was given to me, as I said, on my 50th birthday, which was in 2018. It took a year to confirm all of the charitable objects, because again, I needed to be absolutely certain why I was doing this and who the beneficiaries were at a micro level. the securing of UK Charity Commission status, which is really, that is the intel inside. That's what guarantees the safety of donors. Was given a year later. They go through a rigorous process, including training, which was absolutely brilliant. And then after that, we started mobilizing. We started with projects initially in India, and we've expanded now to Jordan and Nepal. We're working with, in India, we have 2 projects that have, well, 3 activated, but 2 that are currently running. One is an orphanage in Andhra Pradesh, which is a girls' orphanage. And the principle of getting these young girls back to school, yes, it was about school fees and uniforms and what they required in terms of materials, but they needed transport. The barrier was their ability to actually access school because they needed to walk on the streets where many of the people that they were at risk with were present. So we provided a minibus. It can be as simple as that, literally unlocking through a vehicle. We've worked with the refugee program in Jordan in getting young children that are disabled, either physically or mentally, to school, again, through transport. The second project in India is wonderful. It's a sewing project, which actually teaches young women sewing skills and enterprise skills to be able to become tailors in their villages. In doing so, they generate the funding to be able to support their family school fees, which sends the kids to school. So it's the domino effect. And we also have one now in Nepal, which is about creating a school in an area that was hit by the earthquakes. But those schools become community centers. They become hygiene centers for the entire community. So it's always about the domino effect. How can we tap that first domino to push over, and it unlocks the entire family, community, opportunity. So that's what we've been working on. It's a joy. And to your point about others supporting, we've had a spectacular example recently where Puneet Chatwal, who is the CEO and managing director of IHCL, which is the Dodge Group of hotels, has become a dearly loved colleague and friend. And he is in my book because of what the Tata Foundation and the Dodge Community Foundation did during COVID. People don't realize they supported frontline staff in terms of medics and their own staff with over 1.5 million meals and 180,000 bed nights. It's spectacular. They wanted no publicity, nothing. So he and I started talking about that. I profiled it in my book and his remarkable leadership. And then this year on Valentine's Day, when we were in Goa together at a conference, I approached him and I said to him, we need to work together. IHCL has now become a supporter of one of our projects, the Empower Her Sewing Project in India. They are ecstatic about it. They're putting in not only a significant donation, but they're putting their name on it because they see the value of the project to the Indian community in terms of building up the baseline. They trust my foundation. It's the perfect aligning of stars. So for people who are wanting to make a difference and want somewhere that they can trust, I would invite them to please reach out. I'd be thrilled.
The question then that needs to be asked is, how can people do that? How can people come and help your foundation?
Simple. They can do it through many ways. We have our website up and operating, and it's very much a portal to all the information people need for the peace of mind to be able to support. It's the Anita Mendiratta Foundation.org. And it's there. It is there for people to access. They can contact me directly with greatest pleasure. It's anita@anitamendiratta.com or my website, anitamendiratta.com. They can contact you, if I may be so bold, as you have a wonderful network and you've opened up your heart to the foundation. They can go through SAFE. You have been incredible in putting out my advertisements in terms of the foundation as a gift in kind from yourselves, which is remarkable. So I'm very grateful to that. And again, it's like I said, it creates an excitement in people who want to do good, but they're not sure how to do it safely. So I'm thrilled to be able to provide that safe platform. And again, my name is on this. I take this seriously. So I, hand on heart, will do everything in my power to protect every penny of every donation that comes through.
And another reminder for people as well, the call to leadership, unlocking the leader within in times of crisis, is a definite must read. And of course, if people do go online and buy the book, they will, a part of that money will go, of course, as well to the foundation, so they can feel good about doing that as well. Anita, thanks so much for taking the time today. And I really hope that people can come and join this incredible movement that you've started, and really get things moving. Thank you so much.
Richard, I cannot thank you and Gerard enough for how you've responded, the fact that you came across the foundation and your support and hearing the AMF call to action. I'm profoundly grateful, and I send my enormous loving thanks to you both.